Graham Potter, you are killing my podcast. Like literally, how am I supposed to have a tactical review show when there's no tactics to speak about? Chelsea play host to Southampton and lose 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review show, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Southampton. But before I get into all that, ladies and gentlemen, friends, foes, do me the favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. It will help me in the algorithm. As you know, we are trying to grow this channel, and it will help my sponsors who go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do, hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so small correction from my opener. This will not be a tactical review show. As I said in the opener, it's impossible to talk about tactics that you can't see employed on the pitch. And this is part of the problem that I have with Graham Potter right now. Everything that we've seen from week on week on week on week does not show a semblance of a game plan, an understanding on the pitch, you know, some sort of like game plan coming together. And this is basically where I am right now. I've looked at all the angles. I've looked at what this guy is trying to do. I've looked at the injuries. I've looked at the new players coming in, and I can't excuse those performances anymore. I just cannot excuse it. You know, these are the circumstances that he's been brought into, and he hasn't figured out a way to remedy it. He hasn't figured out a way to rectify it. He hasn't figured out a way to play through it. I was sold on the idea that Graham Potter is the kind of guy that can work with a younger playing staff, you know, a guy that can get them playing better football, get them to understand their football better, you know, just bring them to the next level in their career. And I'm not seeing any evidence that he's capable of doing anything like that. Everyone that has been brought into this club right now has regressed. Everyone that has been promoted from the youth team haven't shown any real signs of like kicking on and getting better. So what is the actual purpose of having Graham Potter at this club right now if even his strengths are being shown as weaknesses right now? I mean, everyone, including myself, thought that if you give Graham Potter some time, you know, to really work through the tactics, to work through this team, to sell his ideas to the players, we will see the fruits of his labor on the pitch. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything that is recognizable that makes me believe that this guy is, number one, the right man for the job. Number two, the guy that is able to communicate his message to this bigger playing staff, you know, he's had since he's come to Chelsea. And number three, that he's the guy that's going to take us forward. At this level, the level of champions, the level of Champions League, you know, top of the Premier League table, where we aspire to be right now, you know, the team that we have been in years past, you need to be able to coax great performances from your players. You need to be able to do that. You need to be able to reel off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consistent games where this team is in the ascendancy and dominating teams. That's how you win Premier Leagues. That's how you win Champions Leagues. That's how you win trophies. And he's just not shown me that he has the capability of doing that. Granted, I know we've had injuries. We've had a multitude of players come into the side. But even with that in the backdrop, he is still not getting the side to adapt to his style of football. Consistency is the key, and we've been consistently average for the entire season. You know, fits and starts. We have a 10-minute performance here. We have a 15-minute performance there. We have a 30-minute performance here. We have a 45-minute performance here. When are we going to see a complete 90 from this guy? Why is it that every time we go into the locker room, we come back out looking a completely different side, void of ideas? And amongst everything else, the decision making, the squad selections, everything that you want in the top manager, he's just gotten it wrong every single time. I mean, how long have we been banging on about like just rotating the squad, bringing in Fofana to play striker, for instance, you know, giving some other people an opportunity to find their football and whatnot. And today he finally decides to rest Kai Havertz, who's been poor for longer than I care to remember. And he brings on Dacho Fofana, and for the life of me, he is the only one on the pitch that actually is showing the fight and commitment to play at this club. And then he takes him off in 45 minutes. Like, this is just inexcusable. I'm starting to believe that what's happening at Chelsea is the players are taking on the identity of the manager. And that is a laissez-faire approach to games, you know, very bland football, you know, just uninterested, passionless football. And then when you see somebody come on that shows a little bit of passion, a little bit of fight, you take him off in 45 minutes because he doesn't suit your style of play. I mean, it just tactically made no sense to me from minute 1 to minute 90. I mean, he started Dacho Fofana, he starts showing us some good progression, you know, just finding his feet in the game, you know, making a few runs here and there, little layoffs here, hold up play, whatnot. And then, you know, out of nowhere, he moves him to the left flank and moves Mason Mount, of all people, into the 9 position. Like, I can't account for these things. I can't find the answers to this. I could not understand, explain what was going on. And then for the coup de grace, he takes him off at halftime. Like, what were you looking at when you saw that performance that made you think that you had to move Dacho Fofana onto the left wing, move Mason Mount into the middle, and then take off Dacho Fofana at 45 minutes? He was without question the brightest player that we had on the pitch. You know, so these decisions are just inexcusable to me. Like, the things that he's doing on the sidelines, the touchline, just do not make any sense, and it just reeks of mediocrity. When you can't get squad players to run through walls for you, and you can't get your preferred 11 to do the same, and you're just basically relying on individual talent to get you through matches, there's a problem. If anyone can tell me what the recognizable tactic is, the game plan for Graham Potter is, please leave it in the comments. I want to know. I want to hear from you, because I haven't seen anything that resembles any sort of game plan, any sort of tactical deployment, any sort of like plan B when teams are pressing us all over the pitch. Like, Southampton came to Stamford Bridge today and bossed it, ran the game from minute 1 to minute 90. You know, they pressed us incredibly well. You know, the fact that we had no answer. We're paying this guy $12 million a season to run one of the top clubs in Europe. And he's being out-coached by a caretaker for the 20th place team in the Premier League. Like, that's just unacceptable. Like, by any stretch, that is unacceptable. By Chelsea standards, that is completely unacceptable. And this is why I am where I am right now. I wasn't really necessarily trying to give this guy time. I was just basically observing what I'm seeing, and right now my eyes can't take any more of this anymore. If you can explain this to me. Chelsea played Dortmund in the midweek in the Champions League, got decent performances from a number of players. And, you know, you want to see them kick on now. You want to see, now that we're starting to see a semblance of an understanding on the pitch, you want to see them get the opportunity to continue that continuity. You know, we're not involved in multiple competitions where you have to rest people after you see one good performance. You want it to be the momentum builder to kick on to the next game and the next game and the next game. What does this guy do? He makes 5 substitutions, completely changes the side, and again, what did we look like on the pitch? Like, we had no understanding, absolutely no understanding. You know, between the midfield, between the attackers, between the defenders, we just had absolutely no synergy. All 3 phases of the game, Chelsea had nobody that had understanding of how people play, the tendencies, or what we wanted to do offensively, defensively, and in transition. So that is the indictable offenses for me. These are them right here. You know, the fact that this guy does not understand that you have to have some chemistry on the pitch. You have to build chemistry before you can go ahead and start chopping and changing. We don't have that yet. We don't have a complement of players that are competent enough to play right now. We just don't. Before you can coax the dog out of the squad players you seem to be relying on so heavily right now, you need to have a chemistry within your preferred 11. And that seemed to be happening in fits and starts against Dortmund, a little bit the game before that, West Ham, 45 minutes maybe. And then you go ahead and rip it all apart and start over again. Like, what kind of manager does that? A manager that's not afraid of his job first. A manager that's still trying to figure out what his strongest 11 is. A manager that doesn't understand that you need leaders on the pitch. A manager that doesn't understand that when you're playing for a win, when you need a win, you need your best players to deliver that for you. Like, these are all the things that I just don't understand. Every team in the Premier League is trying to build a spine. Trying to build a spine that you can rely on. That's how you build the structure around the club. Chelsea have no structure right now. You know, between the center backs to the midfield to the striker to the attackers to the striker, there's absolutely no spine, because this guy just has not given enough time for it to be, you know, settled or formed. Where is it? Who do we look to for leadership on the pitch? Who is it that we can give the ball to and like calm things down and get us to play the football that you are demanding from this team? Who is it? I don't know anyone on the pitch that you put on today that you can say is you're relying on to be your dog to get the team to assimilate and play your style of football, whatever the hell that is to begin with. From the looks of it, to me, from the outside looking in, it looks like these players that we've assembled to play for Chelsea do not want to play for Brighton. And, you know, that's essentially what they are right now. We've basically uplifted the entire structure from Brighton and dropped it on Chelsea. And the players that have come to play for this club right now have decided they don't want to play for a manager that has absolutely no CV, like a manager that does not inspire them to achieve greater heights, you know, a manager that hasn't proven once that he can kick on and get 4, 5, 6 wins on the trot. You know, this is the characteristics that we have in the manager right now, and this is why we're getting the performances that we are right now. We just don't have a manager, a leader on the sidelines that understands how to get himself out of the mire, understands how to get teams to buy into, you know, what it is that he's trying to do at this higher level. Of course, it's easy for Brighton. Brighton have no problem with losing 8, you know, going winless in 10, going winless in 11, you know, and, you know, just avoiding the safety zone, you know, like, they're fine with that. This is the completely different level. The pressure mounts up when you come to a club like Chelsea. And he doesn't seem to be handling it well. He seems to be going with the same sort of process that got him the Brighton job. You know, just, you know, laissez-faire approach to games, you know, just, you know, take your time and tinker here. And then if the results don't come, oh well, we'll get them next time. You know, that's life. You know, and that's not acceptable at Chelsea. I mean, you can say what you want. I've been breastfed on short-termism under Roman Abramovich, and I don't know what it's like to have a manager sit in the chair for longer than 2 years, 2.5 years. I don't know what that feels like. But what I do know is when you come into Chelsea, you have to hit the ground running. You have to show that you have an idea of what you're tactically trying to execute on the pitch. Because the people in the terraces, the people that are watching the games, social media and whatnot, we've been breastfed the short-term answers, and we don't know any other football that will allow for you to have the time to bet in your ideas, you know, 2-3 years down the line. We just don't have that. So you, as a manager, have to come to grips, hit the ground running immediately, because the people that are watching you day in, day out do not have the patience that you think that we have. You know, this isn't Brighton, this is Chelsea. And you need to either just pattern up your game, or you gotta go. It's just that simple.